Madrid is getting ready for the match against Espanyol. It's nerve-wracking and exciting. Kike Recio, how's it going? Good to see you. How do you think the boys will do here?
Hello, everyone. Well, it's going to be fascinating to watch this Real Madrid. This end of the season is feeling really long for all of us Madrid fans, honestly, and people are really disconnected. I mean, I think right now people watch Real Madrid, their matches and all that, and follow Real Madrid because they're fans. And obviously, whether they win or lose, we're always going to be there. But people have lost a lot of excitement. Right now, people are disconnected or out of touch with Real Madrid.
Yes. It's already been 2 years. Aside from the jokes about how exciting it is, well, we're all going to be there on Sunday at 9 p.m. to watch the Madrid game because it's just automatic for us because we've done it since we were kids. But honestly, with very little interest, then the Clásico will come, generating more interest. And what do you want me to say? The Clásico scares me. I'm really afraid of making a fool of ourselves because here's my question. What do you think is going to happen with certain players, man? Because there are World Cups. It's a World Cup year. It's not just any year. It's not like last year when there was nothing. Sure, there was the Club World Cup, but you know what I mean. With the World Cup coming up, how do you think certain players are going to behave, man? And then we move on to the topic of, getting a bit excited. New coaches or possible future coaches for Madrid, the names that are being mentioned and how they would get along, how they would behave with certain players who have poisoned the locker room a bit. And let's be clear, in these last 2 years, yes.
I think we're already seeing a lot of episodes of that, right? Players who feel discomfort, little twinges. We already have medical reports explaining different situations. We have the most unfortunate case, which is Militao's. We can't even imagine how much Militao's situation messes up everything in terms of planning, but we already knew the context. Yes.
What about the top military professionals?
Yes, I think he has worked a lot, but he has a very complicated situation. And then the small recurring muscle discomforts that can come up at the end of the season after many matches, you shouldn't force anyone. So it's a season now in this final stretch where the players are going to hold back. They're going to hold back. Now, looking ahead to the Clásico, which is an extremely special match, is Barcelona going to go out there to humiliate?
Absolutely.
Real Madrid? And in this context of the current situation of Real Madrid, between the absences, who's available and who isn't, and the players who are going to be thinking about the World Cup, right now the Clásico scares me. A mí me asusta.
Look, for me, let's start with the thing about Espanyol. Espanyol comes in like this. They haven't won since December, but they're fighting for their lives. Against Madrid,
they just drew 0-0 against Levante, and Espanyol is fighting for their lives. Absolutely.
But 6 months without a win, huh? I mean, they're going to go 6 months without winning a single match. You'll see, we'll get there and they're going to mess things up for us. The last visit to Espanyol's stadium was the famous day when that guy tackled MP. Romero then scored the winning goal. But anyway, that's the only thing. And if you want, now we can focus on some individuals. That makes me think that maybe there won't be a disaster in the Clásico because there wasn't a disaster at the Allianz Arena. In fact, Madrid played a 45-minute match, but we missed a lot, and then they scored theirs. It's just that, that day it was because we could qualify for the Champions League semifinals. And these guys pick their matches. It's clear that they pick them, and maybe they'll pick this one too. They pick it, but maybe a bit out of pride, and maybe because it's a good one. These guys don't need many World Cup springboards now, since Mbappé knows he'll be there too. Are their players guaranteed spots on their national teams? Bellingham too, though he may not know if he'll start. 30. Alexander-Arnold, since he wasn't called up in the last English national team squad with 35 players, I think he's out of Tuchel's team. Maybe. He also has that extra motivation to earn his spot, and that's the only thing, the stage, the showcase, and earning his place. For those who are unsure about their choices.
But of course, what we saw, for example, against Bayern, I totally agree that Madrid picks their matches. In fact, that's been one of the reasons why Real Madrid has disconnected and lost focus in the league. Even without taking advantage of temporary leads, both with Xabi Alonso and with Arbeloa, the point is that there was real competitive motivation. Bayern Munich knocking out Bayern, being in the semifinals again. The team, despite its flaws and our criticisms, was just one non-red card away. Not that they would have advanced, since football could have gone to extra time or penalties. I don't know, we would have to see, but Madrid was in it. They were there there, even though to me they were worse than Bayern as a team, as a group structurally, but they were there. So the thing is, there's no motivational incentive in that regard because the league is lost. And what about Barcelona? I always see them with that drive to go for the kill, which we've always missed from Madrid in recent times. Well, almost always. So in that regard, I think it's a very tough match. And what about Espanyol? Same thing, each in their own context. And I think the kids have lost a lot of motivation. I think Arbeloa could also contribute. It's true, Castilla has more at stake right now. So, of course, giving the kids more freedom. If not, what is Arbeloa supposed to say? Of course, right now, I'm not with Castilla. Maybe causing a conflict for my former team. It's very complicated for everyone to handle this situation right now. Absolutely. I understand that it's a very difficult challenge. Now, my disappointment with the players is enormous. It's tremendous.
Look, I'm convinced. Does this happen with the girls? I'm not going to compare the gap between Barcelona and Madrid in women's football with the gap between Barcelona and Madrid in men's football. Between Barcelona and Madrid in men's football, the gap shouldn't be so large. However, recent circumstances and the fact that they've kept the same coach have contributed. A guy with clear ideas, whose work was understood and respected from day one. He's in the position, but the message when the Barca women play against the Madrid women is to humiliate them. We know you're miles ahead of them on points. We know they're much better, but also humiliate them. And in every match, do you have any doubt that Laporta, who isn't president yet, will become president again this summer? The message to the squad is Barca is going to humiliate these people. I have absolutely no doubt about it.
No doubt at all, none. Because on top of that, I think it's something that's already intrinsic to Barcelona, right? I mean, Barcelona has that extra edge of always having to prove themselves against Madrid. We have that point of living in a different kind of context. The Champions League, the European Cups, our greatness is perceived and experienced through our winnings in the form of European Cups and Champions Leagues. Barcelona also has great moments, obviously, and also an unprecedented historic payment to a vice president in charge of refereeing. It has great historic moments. But besides that, for them, it's very important to keep counting the big wins against Real Madrid, like this one, the 6-2 or whatever. They consider that part of their status as champions, but for Madrid, beating Barca by a big margin isn't part of their champion status. Also, exactly, all of that is a seed. Also, we could even go into other types of contexts that aren't related to social, political, or victimhood issues. There are many things within the Culé Blaugrana core. They always foster that revenge mentality, that desire for more, that passion which you don't sense in Madrid from here. I feel the same way.
They haven't won the treble this year. They'll win La Liga, have the Supercopa, but not the Copa del Rey or Champions League. Still, their real treble is thrashing Madrid. But will they actually come out with that? Honestly, it scares me. And even if someone calls me negative, we're just discussing reality.
The trend right now,
of course, they're going to want to thrash us. And I don't trust certain Real Madrid players because even when we were playing for something important, they didn't give 100%. Imagine now.
Of course, I repeat, one day we'll look back at how this league went. Real Madrid managed to get a really good lead after the Clásico in the winter, which should have been very important. I'm not saying they had to keep the 5, 6, or 7 point lead, but they should have held on to that cushion a bit better. And then even with Arbeloa, there was a match day when we became leaders, and then the next one we lost it. Exactly. So the 2 or 3 chances we've had for different reasons, which I'd rather not get into because it'll just make me angry, we haven't known how to handle it. Then, of course, both on your channel and mine, we've called it out. Situations like that day when they didn't call that penalty, or they did, right? It's in the script because it caused a big stir.
There will be people writing to us saying no. And what about the times we've been robbed? We're the first ones to talk about it.
We both call it out on our channels.
Of course, but we also have to talk about the other thing. And watch out, the referee decisions are outrageous. Just look at the recent ones in the matches against Betis and Girona, man, you know?
But the red cards, Marco, I think when you see the red cards, it marks the end point with the penalty from Evito Gaze. Of course, I think that was key.
And it wasn't a good match for Madrid, but it's a penalty. You get it in the last minute, which gives you a win like that, but you had it the other day. The goal, Bellerin's goal after Anthony's foul, which is called in 97.98% of fouls by a forward, to a defender who grabs him by, but come on. And even so, man, really? So what happens is that I'm one of those who thinks that even if we hadn't had those referee decisions against us, And even having won these matches, I'm convinced that we would still lose the league because of that game left at Camp Nou and because we're not reliable as a team.
Miguel Serrano, the thing is, we're not strong. More reliable, we haven't been even at our best this season because we've still lost. We've made ridiculous mistakes, ridiculous errors in attack and defense, so we're still a long way from being a solid competitive team. The thing is, Madrid has a good squad with a lot of shortcomings, but it's a good squad with quality, just less than in other years, even more injuries too. And lacking a system, lacking collective energy, that's right, and lacking collective ability.
And the one who has to provide that is a coach who comes in. Xabi Alonso tried, they didn't take him seriously. Arbeloa came in later. The man hasn't had time to get a handle on it. With the team, Arbeloa is going to have a great career as a coach, as he knew. I think for sure, and maybe he'll come back to Madrid in the future and all that, but for now, he needs to gain experience elsewhere. I think so, because that's what Madrid is looking for. And we've already talked about it on your channel, and that's where we're going, because on your channel, we've discussed the club figure and Mourinho, and that first. Está Klopp in that lack from Madrid and from Florentino. Maybe he thinks Mourinho, but they're leaning a bit toward the club option, right? But it's going to be between the two of them. That's where things will be. Unless there's an unexpected event like a Sam of Life showing up. That's exactly what I mean. You've also set up the topic of motivating these players to believe in the collective project perfectly. If one comes in or another, I insist on your channel, we've talked about one person or another, but I want to focus on it here. More on how they would get along with certain players, because, of course, I insist we believe the club comes first. In fact, you and I prefer the club option. But, well, Mourinho wouldn't bother us much either, because what we want is a coach who comes in there raising his voice a bit.
And me
too. But just imagine if we show up after what happened with Prestiani, how would that be handled at the start? How would certain players take it, thinking, damn, now this guy's coming to lecture us?
Let's see. At first glance, at least Mourinho, I'm going to go by the Mourinho of 2010 because that's the one I knew. 16 years have gone by, but he's still the same person. He's not 80 yet, so has that much time really passed? Yes, but, well, I want to think that he still has his character, his strength, okay? At least I want to think that. And when does Mourinho arrive? Well, he arrives with an agenda, with a plan, with an idea of signings that needed to be made. Even players very close to him, like Carvalho, and a series of reinforcements that are really good for the team. Di Maria or Silva, what will he say? And within the signing plan, stop, I already did Madrid, that's where I started more. Cristiano, Kaká, Alonso, and all of that, right? But, well, the Mourinho we first met in that stage, he didn't view Raúl and Guti leaving as negative, given the locker room cleanup he faced. It was tainted by a man as legendary and important in every way, and who took up so much space like Raúl, and a complicated player like Guti who went to Besiktas. And then there was a bit of cleaning up, opening the windows in that sense. Even a few more players ended up leaving. But, well, above all this,
Salgado no.
Right now, I don't remember, but above all, what I remember are very emblematic players like Guti, Raúl, who were people that had a lot of power and influence in the locker room. Later, Mourinho had disagreements with a lot of important players. He didn't hold back when it came to calling people out. That Mourinho who would call people out in public, for better or for worse. We'd have to see if he could do that now. Still, he did it before, motivated by getting something. It was Mourinho. He won matches or competed on the field, but also in press conferences, he sent messages. Pressure, like we've seen with Benzema, Pepe, Casillas, or Sil. We've seen it in many situations. So, that Mourinho is someone I would like and who would motivate me. Because I think we need a guy who says, excuse me, Mbappe, excuse me, you don't do that. Look, I'm going to give an example. For me, at times, that was one of the best PSG teams, the one under Tuchel. He took Mbappe aside and told him a few things. It's football, they're professionals, they talk to each other. It may go better or worse, but you must talk face-to-face and communicate directly. Madrid is doing that, less brown-nosing like with Arbeloa, who in the end didn't even flatter anymore because things ended the way they did, but that path doesn't work. In that locker room, you need to look for some rock and roll. Seriously. Xabi Alonso, who wasn't able to do it for whatever reason. We need someone with a strong resume, a proven background who can say, I've won this, this, and this. And for the president to back me up, but of course, for the president to back me up, he has to be really convinced about my arrival. Maybe Florentino wasn't convinced about bringing me in. Xabi Alonso supported it, yes, but maybe it was others who pushed that option more. So Mourinho, in that sense, in doubt, I wanted to be the Mourinho from 2010, not the outstanding 2010 Mourinho. Yes.
2010, sí.
2010.
By the way, I checked. Michel Salgado left in 2009. He left when all those guys arrived because all those big signings like Kaká, Cristiano, Xabi, Alonso.
Pellegrini, that first year.
When Pellegrini was there, yes.
And look, let me give you a fact, excuse me. It's just that everything fits together a bit because Pellegrini was chosen by Valdano. Xabi Alonso was chosen a bit more by, maybe not by another circle of the board. And when Mau arrives, it's very personal. The decision is very much Florentino's.
Yes. I was at that press conference when Valdano and Mourinho came out at the end of May 2010. And right then I realized, I said, these guys are not going to get along.
They're just, I don't know, never water
and oil.
Totally. That relationship wasn't going well.
In fact, there's a segment the other day by Valdano where he analyzes the possible coaches for Madrid, right? So he starts talking about one and then another and so on. And when he gets to Mourinho, he says, man, that with each one of them, he pauses for a while. Valdano, right? No, because look, Klopp and Deschamps and I don't know who else, and Pochettino and so on. Of course, when he gets to Mourinho, he says Mourinho is water under the bridge and moves on. He told him it's water under the bridge. But if there's an issue, I mean, I want to say there's a possibility, but well, the point is that you said it. There's an interview with Di Maria where when they ask him about Mourinho, he says, oh, he's great. He's great. I have very good memories of him and so on and whatever. And he says, once we heard voices in the locker room and he was giving Cristiano an incredible scolding and he was saying to Cristiano,
they said, yes, I think that was being said about Cristiano. Well, that's what we need, Miguel. But you have to allow it because if Mourinho says certain things and then the player in question goes to the president, complains, and the president sides with the players, But
look, and now let's talk about specific players. I think the handicap, the little disadvantage he would have, Mourinho, if he is believed in and if they bet on him, it's precisely because he's going to lay down the law. Well, to a certain type of footballers, not to all footballers, that he won't have any problem. Maybe Madrid sees, and that's why I think they're ahead, that Klopp is somewhat similar. I mean, does he have that kind of leader-like attitude that he brings? A little bit of cleaning up or setting things straight with him, right? But the media firestorm won't be as big as with Mourinho. And maybe they think that's not very convenient for us. Firestorm. Let's see.
Klopp has a bit more of that attitude. He handles the media a bit differently, but Klopp is also capable of calling you out in his own way.
Of course, let's see. But how would he behave? Let's see. Just like with Klopp, we're clear on that. That both of them, if they go into the Madrid locker room and see, hey, Mbappe, look, playing as a number 9, get into the box, don't receive the ball in the middle of the field without purpose, make far more off-the-ball runs than you do now. Don't stick to Vinicius. Hey, Vinicius, don't complain about every play. You do your thing, whatever. I mean, everyone does their own thing, Vinicius. Surely someone will say you mention a lot of mistakes by Mbappe and others by Vinino, and I mention both because they're the most famous, but there are other players who also make a lot of mistakes. Vinicius, when you get the ball with your back to goal, don't hold it too long. Use 1 or 2 touches and do your thing. Focus on the last meters, stay on the left sideline, and in the final stretch, take your man on again and again. For balls received with your back to goal, keep it simple. Pass or play it first time, then make your run. If these players don't do what their coach and club and Moose say, I can't understand why they wouldn't do it. It's okay, to the bench, man.
Mourinho would definitely be capable of benching Vinicius.
And I think I would too.
But in Mourinho's case, I've already seen Mourinho bench absolute legends like Pepe, like Casillas, and I prefer Varane or I prefer Diego Lopez. But as for the club, I don't know if it'd be like that. I mean, partly yes, but not so visceral. You know?
Well, I mean, maybe he does it in a more discreet way, but he did it with Xavi, right? Now, how would they react? I mean, how would these players react? It happened with Xabi Alonso. Vinicius did whatever he wanted. He saw that the club didn't reprimand him. And badly, of course, in this case, what would they do, man? Because, look, I think Vinicius would back down, but what about Mbappe?
It's just that Mbappe, I think he plays in another league, and I'll explain why. For me, Vinicius and Bellingham have, Vinicius and Bellingham for me are players that Mourinho could bench in the sense of franchise players, but Mbappe is the franchise. I mean, Mbappe is not just any footballer in the Florentino sense. When he signs Mbappe, from my point of view, I could be wrong. He doesn't just sign a football player, he signs someone with marketing power beyond Vinicius and Bellingham. I compare him to Vinicius and Bellingham, Real Madrid's most high-profile players, even more than Valverde. Who else comes to mind? Mbappe doesn't play in that kind of... I mean, Madrid, the moment Florentino signs Mbappe, Madrid is set up for Mbappe. I mean, when you sign a player like Mbappe, Cristiano, it's another level and so on. Joder, bastard.
It's just that when you said that, my son's been laughing at those Mbappe memes all day.
Of course, about Mbappe, they're just brutal. But look, I don't mean it. I mean, I don't want to use it in a negative way. But the thing is, the moment you sign Mbappe, of course, you sign him, of course. Look, Alvaro, tell me, I mean, what do you want to do? But is that really how it is, man? That's how it is. It's just that Mbappe is on a different level, a completely different level. So I think with Mbappe, there are other kinds of factors at play. But I don't see the Vinicius Mourinho connection. I really don't see it because I think it's, well, there are examples. Look, Mourinho had a great relationship with Mario Balotelli, but of course, Mario Balotelli was a player who was completely out there. Come on, I mean, not like Vinicius. I don't think he's like that, but Vinicius has a huge ego. And Mourinho has benched absolute legends and has called out everyone. Is there any player better than him? So I think that with Bellingham, he would do the same if Bellingham starts to become that insignificant player who stops having any real impact. But with Mbappe, I don't think it's the same.
It's just that
I think that
I've got one thing. Remember what it's been like for channels like ours, for you and for me. Since they kicked out Xavi, January and February were some of the worst months I've had since starting my channel. I lost subscribers and was insulted. Man, we've had a civil war over this. But months have gone by, and all those who were handing out criticism and all that, they've had to eat their words because, of course, nothing has changed here, right? With Pintus, changing physical preparation is impossible. You'll see by January.
people sometimes don't want us to tell them certain things that break down that natural feeling, someone's excitement. It's kind of a buzzkill.
Sí,
un poco el cortarrollos.
un
Aquí
poco
el
el
youtuber de
cortarrollos.
los...
A hater, a sourpuss, right? Of course, that's why I do it, right? Sure, it happened to me. Are you? Damn, that's why I tune into a Barca channel. I say no, man. The thing is, I can't support certain narratives and I don't objectively believe in them. It's really hard for me. So sometimes we say things and we might not get it right, but we share what we think in each situation.
But what I'm getting at is that in January, since there was still season left, there were a lot of Real Madrid fans saying that, come on, let's support those Real Madrid fans. I'm convinced that most of those who were saying that have had enough by now. And right now, most of them, I can't really put a percentage on it. You decide. About 85% are hoping that one of these guys comes in and tells Mbappe off. Now we're talking. So either one or the other, if they're going to come in and do it, 85% of those at the Madrid final will support it.
Right now, I notice with Mourinho not so much, but with Klopp, I notice a lot of support in the media and on social media too. I mean, those of us who consume or run channels and stuff, people are really interested in the idea, especially when you add Cruz, which we've already discussed on the channel, and it creates this, an aura, a very convincing story there. Objectively speaking, we're not there yet, but if you see it in a picture, it looks really good.
I think it gets us all on the same page.
It brings together all kinds of Madridismo. The most critical or the most negative, I like to say negative. The more pro-club ones, which I also don't really like to say, but those are the labels. In life, you have to put labels on everything because people sometimes need to label things to make everything simpler. But yes, Klopp is right now the guy who brings everyone together around what people want from a coach.
Jurgen Klopp.
Well, we'll see what he says. We've talked about that on your channel too. So that's it. Follow Quique Recio on Madridismo al Día and subscribe to this channel too, please, if you haven't already. Give this video a like, and that's it. Thank you, Quique. See you in the next one, man. A big hug.
Hugs to everyone. Bye.